On this episode of Law Weekly, we talk about the rising cases of Ponzi schemes and what protection, if any, that the law offers. We talk to Adetunji Adedoyin Adeniyi, a legal practitioner who has wide expertise in the legal aspects of both local and foreign investments. Also showing on the program today, Lagos State blazes the trail again as it takes its laws online. The e-laws of Lagos State, complete with annotation, is the first electronic collection of a state law in the country. Plus a recap of some of the top trending legal stories. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Shola Shoyeli. My guest, Adetunji Adedoyin Adeniyi, has acquired wide experience in legal practice areas like debt recovery and insolvency, asset and property management, commercial and banking transactions, company secretariat, and other related matters. Adetunji is an award-winning litigator who also has extensive experience in the legal aspects of both local and foreign investments. He was the lead counsel in the Emerging Global Solutions case, where Justice Oluwatoyin Oyekun Abdullahi of the Lagos High Court agreed with his submissions and gave judgment against the Ajetumobu couple who fled with over 18.8 billion of investors' funds in what has now become known as a failed Ponzi scheme. Now, you'll agree with me that a lot of people are falling victims of Ponzi scheme, and those who haven't probably know someone who has. It is that common. So I began my conversation with Adetunji on what a Ponzi scheme really is and how people can detect one.
I think before you could have just mentioned that Ponzi scheme is some form of business arrangement or investment where people just put in money without due diligence and things go wrong. But I think in this modern day, Ponzi scheme has gone beyond that. Now, you will even see companies more or less that are even publicly quoted. Big companies with everything appears to be going well. And all of a sudden, you realize that you're falling like Ponzi scheme. And for me, how you get to know that this is a Ponzi scheme is if the investment is not more or less, in most cases, in compliance with CBN regulations. CBN regulations mandate that if you are taking loans or investment, at least there will be some form of collateral. But when you want to know that this is Ponzi scheme, is that these guys come, promise you heaven on earth, and the next thing, they disappear into thin. And how do you know? No properties, nothing to trace. Even you find out that even the business, the buildings doesn't even belong to them. So these are major characteristics of Ponzi scheme. So for us to detect their documentation, how long they've been in business, who can vouch for them, is there a third party?
So these are checks that people should carry out before they put their money in a place. Because these are things that, well, if they just come to you and sell the scheme to you, most people do not bother about these details. It just looks good on the face of it. Somebody has told them that they know about it and they put their money there.
I totally agree with what you said. But what I would just say is that people need to investigate more. There is a recent case we did in our firm. And these guys, all due diligence were carried out. Everything was perfectly done. But lo and behold, this guy disappeared into thin air. On getting to his office, everything, the guy has orchestrated his moves. By the time we were able to get court orders, got his statements of account, realized that it's like everything got orchestrated from get-go. And to tell you, this one of them we just did recently. This guy has been in business for almost 4 years, and people have been investing, he's been paying, and for me, I think when you give your money to people or persons or entities and they use it and they will promise you they will pay you 5, 10, whatever percentage, I think we should just double check.
Okay, so what about companies that are legally registered for investments but are subsequently discovered to be operating Ponzi schemes?
Even though a company is registered as an investment company, at least there must be some form of fallback on capital, like either through CBN or through the Tribunal Investment Security Tribunal can look into it, and everything should check out.
So now that you've gone to
talked about court. Let's talk about courts, because a lot of people say that the courts have not really been helpful in dealing with cases of Ponzi schemes. I have heard thousands of stories of people who are falling victims, but they seemingly don't get justice. It's like those who fleece them of those funds go scot-free. Now, I'm asking this question because I know that you were the lead counsel in the Ajetumobi case, the couple who allegedly took off with about 18.8 billion of depositors' funds, and you got some form of justice for your clients. But this is not the case with a lot of other people who are falling victims. So are the courts really helpful when it comes to issues like this?
To be honest, the courts have been helpful, but like I said, the court can do more. But the main issue is with the people investing. The courts are not, the judges, they are not magicians. They depend and they give judgment based on evidence. I'm glad you made mention of the Emerging Global Ajetumobi's case. I can tell you that all our clients, they have documents. They have, at least, we are not saying you should have the investment letter or investment contract, the funds you invested. In fact, I've had few people come to me for, oh, please help us to recover this. How did you give the money? How can you give 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million in cash?
And there's no proper documentation.
There's no proper documentation. That means even your own funds are questionable. On the other part, when you talk about the courts, I think the courts, to be honest, I was on a lighter note. I was before a judge, and where everybody wants their case to be attended to urgently. And I'm not really holding brief for them, but at times they are belabored. You see a judge handling over 1,000 cases. 1,000. Not just the courts. I think the government has a lot to do. Look at it. For AMCON, we now have more or less like designated AMCON judges. One, they try these issues. Two, 99.9% of AMCON cases, they start with ex parte orders freezing all the assets, and the BVN, the account linked, the BVN linked to such accounts. So for me, if the courts, and I won't say maybe even NJs, because most of these judges, it's not that they don't want to grant ex parte orders. But like now, the reason why Federal Court judges grant ex parte orders for AMCON is because the Act provides for it. That's why a lot of banks went down, because you will see people owing them humongous debt, and they are still fighting them with the money you are supposed to use. And these are depositors' funds. So when things like these are taken care of, we've received several calls, and to worsen, to say, we have represented part of the Ajetumobi. There is a foreigner, a young dude. His funds should be, it shouldn't be more than up to 40. He works here like expatriate. He invested so much money. In fact, I think he invested a good sum of money.
So he fell victim too.
He fell victim. What do we want such persons to say? But the good news is the Lagos State High Court did fantastic. In fact, it's one of the fastest recovery cases we've done. Justice Honorable Justice Oyeko Abdullahi, we got the Mareva order to the extent that she even gave worldwide Mareva order. And to be honest, one or two companies in UK honored it. Some companies honored it, though some of these other countries say we do not have such treaty for them to honor it. But the most important thing is that the message is out there.
This is also one question that I got a lot of, that I got from a lot of people. The way Ponzi schemes usually work is that one person has benefited, and then they're introducing it to other people, their friends and colleagues, and come and put your money here. So this question, can people who are privy to the enhancements of a Ponzi scheme be sued in place of the fraudsters, where those people are the ones on whose statements you relied on to invest in the Ponzi scheme? Are there remedies against such people who aided you or encouraged you to invest in a Ponzi scheme?
Thank you for that question. It's a very beautiful question. I've had one or two, not even plenty, people approached me or clients in that issue. It's two ways. It depends on your extent of involvement. For example, if Mr. A approaches me, that, oh, come and invest in this. And I said, okay, I will invest. And they bring the company materials to me. You saw the company, you did everything, you did your due diligence, and you paid into the company. And the company paid you, and you were enjoying your funds. You signed that, oh, this, and you came back. There is no how the person that introduced you will be held liable. But guess what? That's my opinion. I'm not the judge, but that's my view, but which I know. But if Mr. A approaches me, oh, come and invest this, the sum is about 500 million, you invest. And I said, okay, Mr. A, no problem. Said, this is the company, this. And Mr. A said, pay into my account. And Mr. A receives that money into account.
On behalf of the fraudulent.
On behalf of the fraudulent. There's no how Mr. A will not be treated as part of it. As an accessory. Because if you were the one that collected the money, so every month the money is going back and forth. There are only very few exceptional circumstances that maybe there are communications, there are correspondence to show that you were the one that said, oh, no, I would rather pay the money to you. He said, no, why don't you want to invest in it? So, no, I would rather pay the money to you. And you saw every communication, how the money went in, the money came out. And let's assume the Ponzi finally surfaces like it normally does. And you run through the accounts. She says, this is how I paid him. This is how the money came. Maybe some courts or judges or persons can be sympathetic. But as far as money did not go, funds didn't go through you, I don't personally, because everybody markets everyone. So I wouldn't say because you marketed something to me, you should be liable for it. But if you partook, you benefited part of the funds, money came to you, then obviously you can be part of it.
Finally, what more do you think that the judiciary and even the government, what more do you think they can do to reduce this menace of Ponzi schemes? I mean, it's so commonplace. This was where we started from. If people who haven't been victims know someone who has been victims, I mean, it's that common. So what more can our government and our judiciary do?
Honestly, I don't know. But firstly, once it's discovered that these one or two persons are Ponzi, I think I won't blame the government, but I would say it can be aided and it can be better. Why would I say that? Number one, such persons should be declared wanted fast. So, because some of these Ponzi scheme people, they dupe these people, they still go, because nobody, and the procedure or the process of declaring such persons wanted, I think they are too bureaucratic. They take long. And before you know, these people have disappeared. Number two, I feel the government and the judiciary, the government can allow bills to be passed that ex parte orders to freeze all their accounts can be gotten. So most of these judges will not be too timid. I won't call it bad, not to grant the ex parte order. So they won't be petitioned. They can say, I granted it. Thirdly, the BVN of such persons should be treated. And I feel there should be a general portal that nobody should seek investment if they are not being regulated. It might be that CBN, NDIC, or a new body might join such persons. And also, there should be dedicated judges. Sorry to digress. There was a time we had one or two matters. We were before the judge. And at times, you'll find out that some of these judges, they don't even know what this whole investment thing. Maybe the issues involved. Maybe the judge has been a specialist in properties or in matrimonial causes or but when you are discussing, they will say, so it's not their fault. So for me, I feel judges, even fine, judges are always being like they rotate. Yeah. So even if you are going to rotate the judges they should be in the same field. So we know that anytime I have this judge is a specialist.
So the judges should enjoy better training or more training in such
Yes,
areas.
they should enjoy more training. They should the law should support them. And I'm sorry, I feel more judges need to be appointed.
Welcome back. In a bid to ensure easy access to justice as well as quick dispensation of justice, the Lagos State Ministry of Justice in partnership with Law Pavilion have announced the Lagos State e-laws platform. Law Pavilion is a technology solutions provider engaged in the business of publishing judicial authorities, cases and laws, and its partnership with the Lagos State Judiciary is the first of its kind and a bold step of publishing and distributing the state laws electronically.
Gathered here are senior lawyers from the Lagos State Ministry of Justice, the Law Reform Commission, the team from Law Pavilion, journalists and other key stakeholders. The Attorney General of Lagos is excited to announce the state's partnership with Law Pavilion, a partnership which has now seen Lagos State laws published online for the benefit of all lawyers and even members of the public.
We are the very first state to have all our laws online, available online. The significance is that so any lawyer going to court now or going to a meeting does not have to log about the hard copies of the laws of Lagos State. He can go to the meeting with his phone and just call up, as the demonstration showed up, the particular law which he wants to reference. And not only have we provided all the laws online, we have also provided all cases which have interpreted or touched on any of these laws. So it's a fantastic research tool. Everybody cannot now claim, even though it's not an excuse in law, it is now going to be more difficult to claim or feign ignorance of the law.
The Managing Director of Law Pavilion, Mr. Okwe Olugasa, takes the gathering through a practical demonstration of how it works. He says that this laudable initiative is in line with the current reality of the new normal.
The first reason why I think this is an epoch-making event, apart from the fact that it's the first of its kind, it's actually in line with current realities of the new normal, where everyone is now forced to work remotely, and the geographic space is no longer an excuse for non-delivery or non-access or non-performance. And that's the first thing why I think this is very important. And then it makes it easy for legal practitioners, for judges, to have access to the complete and updated laws of Lagos State. I think the Law Reform Commission really did a wonderful job because they went back and updated all the laws. So when you say it's actually up to date, trust me, it's up to date. And I don't think any state in Nigeria has that one. If you have looked at the World Bank's rating on ease of doing business, one of the critical or one of the cardinal points is ability, the ease of accessing laws of any state, the ease of accessing laws of the land. And with this stride, I want to congratulate the Honorable Attorney General of the State and the Solicitor General and Permanent Secretary, the Law Reform Commission, the Ministry of Justice, that with this, you have just crossed a threshold in evaluation of ease of doing business in Nigeria. And indeed, Lagos State is setting the pace. I'm sure all other states will have to follow your stride, sir. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My colleague will just show us very briefly how the laws work. The e-laws, rather, work. So on the Law Pavilion platform, whether on the online version or the offline version, that's either Pencil or Prime, you have a dashboard, your dashboard, go to the site man then. you can see there, before now it's been, okay, cases, Supreme Court cases, Court of Appeal cases, those of the Federation, Section 7, and you can read the laws, and this is appeal for all the laws of Lagos State. So when you're conducting lawyers are conducting their legal research, or judges are also advocating on any matter of that involves the laws of Lagos State, instead of them having to force, maybe they're writing judgment, in the night, then they're having to go to the, wait till the next day, to go to the law courts, to their library to access this. Right there, they can even be in the claim. Now, for me, this is actually interesting because now it's easy to deliver judgment on the law anywhere or the nick of time. And then anyone that's been tested in the courts that has relevant cases, you will see relevant cases, and you can see the other state relevant cases, and it shows you the case, you can see the particular case, you can read the full judgment. So right there on your device is not just the complete laws of Lagos State, it's a whole library that gives you annotations on everything you need.
Members of the media had questions about IT support, user-friendliness, and the possibility of getting the laws online in the various Nigerian languages. The partnership appears to have given considerable thought to all the issues, and members of the public were encouraged to interact with the e-platform and provide their feedback.
And from that report, we move on to the home stretch with a recap of some of the top trending legal stories in the news.
We begin with the report that the Supreme Court has declared Ifeanyi Odi as the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Ebonyi State. The court further struck out the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, which had declared Senator Obinna Ogba as the governorship candidate. In the lead judgment, read by Justice Lawal Garba, the five-man panel headed by Justice Amina Auji noted that Senator Ogba did not have a right of appeal because he was not part of the suit when the matter came up at the trial court in Abakaliki, where his candidature was upturned. Staying with the Supreme Court, the number of justices at the court has been further depleted following the retirement of Justice Abdu Aboki. Justice Aboki is the third Supreme Court justice to retire this year after clocking the mandatory retirement age of 70. Justice Mary Peter Odili and Justice Ejimbi Eko had retired earlier in the year. The former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, had also resigned from the court, citing ill health. With Justice Aboki's exit, the number of Supreme Court justices has dropped to 13, as against the maximum requirement of 21. At the valedictory court session in honor of Justice Aboki, the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria says the depletion on the number of justices has become a burden on the court. From the Supreme Court, we move to the Court of Appeal, Abuja, which has reserved judgment on an appeal filed by the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, seeking to quash the terrorism and treasonable felony charge the federal government preferred against him. The IPOB leader, who is currently facing trial before the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, is asking the court to review the April 8th ruling on the trial court, which struck out only 8 out of the 15-count charge. He insists that the charge has no basis in law. Kanu also wants the court to order his release on bail pending the determination of his appeal. Still at the Court of Appeal, the president of the court, Justice Monica Dongban Mensam, has called for the release of funds for the establishment of election petitions ahead of the 2023 elections. She made the call at the ceremony to mark the court's new legal year. Justice Dongban Mensam also called for the training of judges that would sit on the election tribunals. At the same legal year ceremony, the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Yakubu Mekel, condemned the poor working conditions of the justices and urged the government to be deliberate about investing in their welfare. It's not only the Court of Appeal that has kickstarted a new legal year, though. The Ogun State Judiciary has also held a special Thanksgiving church service to celebrate the beginning of its new legal year. The governor of the state, Dakwa Abiodun, used the opportunity to advise judges to be wary of the antics of politicians, especially ahead of the 2023 elections. He also reiterated his commitment to supporting the judiciary. At the National Industrial Court, lawyers involved in the suit filed by the federal government challenging the ongoing strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities have made a case for an accelerated hearing. They also appealed to the federal government to cooperate with ASU to resolve the issue. They say this will enable students to return to school as soon as possible. The court is also set to listen to the interlocutory application of the federal government, even as lawyers in the matter notified the court that ASU is currently meeting with stakeholders to ensure that the lingering crisis is resolved. And we round off with the report that some lawyers have filed a case at the Federal High Court Lagos to stop the Labour Party, its candidate and supporters from holding a rally tagged #Obidet23 Forward Ever Rally. The plaintiffs argue that the rally would be reminiscent of the EndSARS protest and would cause a breakdown of peace which would result in post-traumatic stress disorder for them and other members of the public.
And this is where we adjourn till next week. Don't forget that you can find this episode of the program and past episodes on our YouTube channel. After viewing, be sure to leave us a feedback. I'm Shola Sheyeli. Thank you for watching and see you next week.